You're listening to The Real Short Box, a comic book podcast made for geeks by geeks.
Hello, everybody, and thank you for tuning in and listening to The Real Short Box. My name is Donald.
And my name is Kevin.
And Kevin, we are here today to talk about the next great comic crash. When's it going to happen? When's that other shoe going to drop? When's that bubble going to burst? When is everybody's hopes and dreams just going to be dashed like so much so pretty much a Beanie Baby in the wind? You know what I mean? Like, when is that going to happen? We're seeing it right now with the Pop Toys. We're seeing the popularity of Pop Toys go down and down and down. That's coming. When is it comic books' turn? When are these books going to go down in value? Because right now, all they keep doing is going up.
That's true. And I know you are assuming and expecting there to be a repeat of what happened in the early 90s.
Absolutely. I absolutely do. I am a big believer of another bubble burst. I think that there's a certain point where sustainability and affordability, they don't match up. Like, you can't sustain an industry if you can't afford certain things. And I think it's bound to happen. We've already seen a few not so great Marvel movies, and people, God bless them, they've given them the what would you say? They given them
benefit of the doubt.
Right. They've given them, okay, that's a do-over. You know what I mean? Like, that's a mulligan. You can do that one over again. Basically, Thor 2, The Dark World, no one liked that movie except for like two people. But Ragnarok,
they come back.
Right. Yet we've gotten 3, and we're getting 4 of Thor. And then we look at Captain Marvel, which was a fiscal success. It made huge amounts of cash,
but not creative.
Not in popularity. It was very
not creative.
Divisive. What's the word I'm looking for?
That's the right word. A lot of people found it divisive.
Yeah, it's kind of split in two ways, where there was people that liked it and people that hated it, and there's no in between. You either liked it or you hated it. And I don't know anybody that said, "Oh, I love that movie," except for 2 or 3 people that love Captain Marvel and would accept anything that came out that was Captain Marvel. Because let's be honest, when we're thinking about Marvel comics and Marvel superhero movies, nobody was thinking about Captain Marvel, really. No one was thinking, this movie needs to happen. Yet it happened. Was it good? That's up for you to decide whether you liked it or not. But it did split the vote from a lot of people. Like, they either loved it or hated it. So we have to look at that. We have to look at, was that a misstep? And if so, when's the next misstep? And if there is another misstep, how many missteps does Marvel/Disney get before the fans start to go, you know what? I don't like this stuff anymore. Yeah. I don't want to read comics. I don't want to collect them. The movies are dumb. I'm out.
Not buying the video games, not buying more merchandise. Yeah, right. When you get to that point.
And when that happens, I want to be there. You know what I mean? Like, swooping in, somebody's
a vulture.
Not a vulture. I was gonna say like somebody's savior, more or less, with mounds of cash in my hand to go, I will collect that book because I am a true fan.
Mm-hmm. That's true. I'm sure it happened, over 30 years ago as well.
Well, I was a little bit young and naive around that time. And those that don't know, those that are tuning into the Real Short Box here, we talk a lot about comic books and speculation in the market in general. We've been doing What's in Your Short Box episodes. We've been doing prospecting episodes for years now. We've been doing this. And we can officially say that for years now we have been doing this. And we see the ebb and flow and what's hot and what's not. And in some books that go up and then down again and back up. And again, I'm going to say this one more time for the cheap seats. The villains will never, unless it's a rare few, will never have sustainability in the market. They're not going to keep going up and up and up in value. They're going to hit a maximum, and then they're going to go back down. Sometimes it'll be a subtle lowering in value. Other times it'll be a ginormous lowering, like we saw with Ghost from Ant-Man.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it just depends on the film. It depends on the bad guy, and it depends. Like Doctor Doom, Magneto, they're safe. Those are safe bets. They're not going to kill off Doctor Doom. They're not going to kill off Magneto because they are characters that have heart to them. They have a certain level of sustainability. They have the ability to keep audiences enthralled. You could do a movie of Doctor Doom or Magneto and people would watch it because they love it that much. Hell, Loki is getting a miniseries on Disney Plus because people love it so much.
That's true. And of course, you know, you have the Joker, so he's not going anywhere. But of course, how many people actually have his first appearance?
And that's one of the rare DC ones, yeah, where you don't really, you know, DC's been around in a way a lot longer than Marvel. The Marvel world,
as we know it.
Right. They had Captain America for a long time. They've had Namor for a long time, the Human Torch. But they didn't have Iron Man. They didn't have the Fantastic Four or Spider-Man. All that stuff came in the 60s. So Marvel's in a way, a relatively new company, which is why there was an affordability to Marvel, and the movies were good. So that's why we're seeing this boom. Nobody's going to go out and say, oh man, Black Adam movie's coming out. I need to go buy his first appearance from that Fawcett comic in the 40s. Yeah, sure, it's only $150,000, but I think it'll go up in value.
Right, you're not going to see that.
I'm not Elon Musk. I don't have that kind of money. Kiss my ass. So what do? I'm like, okay, well, what is his first DC Comics appearance? When DC bought Fawcett and they brought the character over, what is that first appearance? Can I afford that?
Right, Silver or Bronze Age.
I can't afford that anymore? Shit, okay. Let's see. What is his first appearance as far as like a solo miniseries or something really instrumental that happened to him? Where can I draw the line and get some Black Adam? I gots to have me some Black Adam. So it just becomes like a big cycle. So in investment terms, I mean, you can only put so much money into certain stocks. And if you're not seeing the
returns,
right, you're not seeing the returns, you're not going to want to invest anymore. And the moment that happens, you're going to see a lot of comic book so-called, I'm doing quotation fingers right now, so-called fans that invested will just dump loads of books. Because they're like, well, this movie's trash, this character's trash, this isn't worth anything anymore.
So you feel what you're seeing right now is it's almost analogous to what's going on with the GameStop stock over the last 6 months or so?
That's kind of a bird of a different feather, horse of a different mane. I don't know.
Like, do you feel some people are just, in other words, they're jumping on the bandwagon of comic book collecting so they can, take advantage of?
Absolutely. This is the 90s all over again. And again, those that didn't live through the 90s, they don't know. The 90s saw where they printed millions of copies of books because there was a demand, because stock market investors said comic books are the next stock market. This is where I need to invest. I'm buying 5 copies of every book that comes out because it's going to be worth thousands of dollars and I'm going to make millions.
Especially when the death of Superman was one of the things that helped kick it off.
Yep. Thousands of people flocked to that. Yeah. You couldn't buy that thing for less than $50. I remember the day it came out. I think it was available for $20 at my local comic shop. The day it came out. Second print was $10. And I think we've talked about this before, but like I couldn't afford the first print back then.
Right.
I wasn't old enough to have like, a buku cash or whatever. And $20 was $20 back then.
Yeah, $20 had a lot more meaning back then, that's for sure.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And even maybe before that, I remember when Spider-Man #1 came out, Todd McFarlane launched, another book of Spider-Man, and that sold millions of copies. And then like a year later, X-Men 1, and that still has the record and probably never be broken, sold 8 million copies. And of course, there are different covers and what have you. So of course, people probably jumping on that as well. Yeah, this is going to be worth X amount of money 10, 20, 30 years down the road.
Yeah. And you look at it right now. Falcon and the Winter Soldier, that Disney Plus series, when that came out, everybody was speculating. They were like, oh my God, is the Thunderbolts going to appear? Mm-hmm. Maybe. Oh my God, I heard Omega Red might show up. Wow. Suddenly, a book from 93, 94, X-Men #1, whenever that came out?
X-Men 4 for Omega Red.
Yeah. That was issue #4. Now, they were still printing a high amount of issues because it was Jim Lee that was involved, and he was
on fire. He was on fire.
Hot, yeah. So they were like, okay, so let's print a shit ton of these. So when they announced that for Disney Plus, the series, and people started speculating, that book that you would find in the quarter bin or the dollar bin at most, that book that everybody and their mother had a copy of, suddenly became $100 book. You and I laughed at that.
Of course, because it's only a matter of time before it crashes.
Right. Hell, I saw a guy trying to buy a copy from a dude on Instagram that was selling it, that was going to sell it for $50 to $100, and I reached out to him and I said, "Don't do it."
Did he listen?
Yes, he listened. I said, "Don't do it. I have extra copies. I'll give you one for $10, dude." I was like, I didn't pay $10. I'm still making money. I probably paid $1.
Yeah,
I'm making $9 profit off this book, and that's okay. I have extra copies. I don't need to fleece the world, And the nice part is he told me, he said, "Thank you so much. I am a huge Omega Red fan, and that's why I want this book. I missed out on it when I was younger, and now apparently it's a hot book, and I don't understand." And I was like, me neither. And I was like, we don't have to do this to each other. That's the thing. If more comic people started taking a stand and not charging, if it wasn't all for monetary profit, if it was just for profit in the heart, so to speak, we would see more kinder collectors and more kinder vendors, because the vendors wouldn't have that leverage against the collectors that they do.
Well, one thing that's going on right now and over the past year is a combination of the COVID pandemic and multiple stimulus checks going out. So that is probably one of the reasons that all this heavy speculation, things are going up, they're inflating. So obviously it's not just the comic books, but it's sports cards, certainly those Marvel trading cards, obviously the pop figures. I mean, everything collectibles just been skyrocketing, and a lot of heavy speculation. People are just trying to find the next big thing and just throw a ton of money at it. So this is the time to cash out for certain things. I'm not saying cash out your comics, of course, but actually maybe you should cash out some of them, not all of them, but something like an X-Men 4. Yeah, if you have extra copies, if I were you, absolutely go out there and just, if people want it, sell them. Of course, I agree with you, Donald. You shouldn't fleece people too hard. Just like, hey, $20, $20 for this copy of X-Men 4, because there's so many out there. And I don't think it's possible for vendors and dealers to come around and just, wipe out the entire market.
What's that goddamn noise, Kevin? What is that goddamn noise? What's going on? What are you doing?
I don't know.
Yeah, I can hear it over here. I can hear it. We're actually we're on a audio conference thing that we're recording, so that is why we're not in the same room, unfortunately. Kevin, he gets a little handsy, so we have to stay separate now. It's just the way it is. So. But anyway, continue. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's all. I think it's you can't grab every single 4 million copies there are of like X-Men 4. So it's not really possible to close out that market where there is with some of the older books. It is possible to close out the market, but not with something like this. So if someone's trying to charge you $50, $100 for X-Men 4, you can pretty much tell them to go to hell, because it's not worth it. You can find it out there. If you do your research, do your prospecting properly, you can find it.
Yeah. I mean, all you got to do is go to somebody's garage in Tennessee that's having a garage sale or something. You're going to find that book for cheap. That's the thing. It's just people want stuff now. It's that instant gratificational thing. I can go on eBay and just buy it now for $50. Why wouldn't I do that? Well, why don't you just wait like 6 months, and you'll probably run across one of them because there's only been like 2 million freaking copies made of the damn thing. And at that point, the heat will have died off. Omega Red is a cool character, don't get me wrong. I love that character.
Plenty of copies.
But there's plenty of copies, and he's not going to stay hot forever. He is not Dr. Doom. He's not Magneto.
He's not Deadpool. Like, I can understand him as Deadpool. Deadpool's one of the exceptions to the rules where there are a lot of copies out there, but the demand is so high that, yes, now it's justified to pay whatever it is, $300, $400, $500 for a raw copy because he's so popular. It's a high demand. So it's like, there's like one of the few exceptions to the rules, maybe like 3 exceptions to the rules as far as 90s books are concerned for it to be, for it to be worth as much as it's worth.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so I guess you were talking to me, and you were talking about what were you talking about with the investing? What you had mentioned earlier, as far as with books in general. I think basically about the prints and stuff and the amounts.
Do you mean like the different prints, like the second print, third print, that type of thing?
No, not so much that. We were talking, and we'd mentioned that the bubble could burst a different way. It's not so much it has to do with the movies, so much as it could have to do with, just like it happened in the 90s, an overprinting issue.
Oh, yes, that's right. Overprinting. Well, this is where you and I were kind of debating. I don't think it'll get back to that 90s level. They're printing millions of copies or even like 500,000 copies. From what I understand, what you're seeing is maybe 10, a few tens of thousands of copies at best. And then when they go to second printing, they'll do something like that again, third printing. But I don't think it'll ever get so bad where, oh my God, there's 600,000 copies of the latest Batman issue or X-Men issue or Deadpool issue. I think they learned their lesson. Plus, the way the industry is now, it's not what it used to be.
Yeah.
So, anything can happen, but I just don't see it happening. So when the crash does occur, I don't think it'll be as devastating as it was 25 to 30 years ago when it happened last time. It'll just be maybe books get cut down in half and go down, half in value than what it used to be. So something like John Walker, I don't expect that to stay up forever, He's just hot right now. He's going to disappear for a bit. They'll bring him back for a future MCU TV show or movie. So if you really want those John Walker books, just wait 6 months even. I'm sure it'll come down.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally get what you're saying. It could very much happen that way, that people. It's just a hype right now.
Yeah, it's just like indie books. If somebody's indie books like Sweet Tooth 1, that could come crashing down depending on how the show is received.
Yeah. There's an ebb and flow to it. And Sweet Tooth is a good example because if it's a good series on Netflix, Lock and Key was pretty good too. But Lock and Key isn't something that's gone through the roof.
Mm-hmm.
And we also have to look at CGC books versus raw books. When does that happen that people no longer care about the grading of comics and they just want the book? Because to me, like, for example, if I went to buy a Giant Size X-Men #1, which is the first appearance of Colossus, Nightcrawler, and Storm, and the second appearance of Wolverine. Also, what was it, Thunderbird?
Yeah, Thunderbird, Banshee.
Yeah. No, not Banshee. It's not the first appearance of Banshee.
Oh, it's not? Oh, I forgot about that.
No.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that. That's right. He appeared before that.
Yeah.
Thunderbird, who unfortunately only lasted like 3 issues. Unfortunately, that poor guy.
Yeah, poor son of a bitch. But if we're talking about that kind of a book, you're gonna want that book regardless if it's graded or not.
Because it's a historical piece.
Right,
it's a
historical piece. There's a lot of history there with that book, and that's what we all want.
That's a blue book. That's a blue blood, blue chip book. So it's not going anywhere.
Right, and we all want a piece of that history. And some of us more than others. For me, for example, I am a coveter of history, of historical pieces when it comes to comic books. I love getting the first historical pieces, like I think it was Amazing Spider-Man number 95, 96, and 97, or was it 96, 97, and 98? Can't remember.
Which story arc are you talking about?
But it was the one about drug use.
Oh, yeah.
And Marvel decided to quietly talk about drugs and not include the Comics Code Authority.
That was a very daring thing.
They took the code off the book and put the book out. And the Comics Code didn't lose their minds. It just happened and it went. It was there and it was gone. But that's very historic because that's the first time Marvel stepped away from the code.
Yeah, and you're right. Those are the issues, 96 through 98. Matter of fact, 50 years ago, 1971. So, yeah.
So, see, that was a big historical moment in comic book history. So, for me, it was something that I wanted to own. So, I got that. You know, same thing with Giant Size X-Men or even Amazing Fantasy, you know, the first Spider-Man, number 15.
Mm-hmm.
I would like to own it. What's that?
And certainly Hulk 181, which you certainly own a copy of.
Yeah, first Wolverine. I mean, I would want a piece of that history. Some of them I can't actually physically own. Can't afford a first Superman or first Batman. It just, I don't have.
You hit lotto, you never know. You hit the lotto, then you can.
I don't have $2-3 million just lying around, you know. So I'm good there. But there was a lot up to a certain point. There was a lot of still obtainable keys. Like, not more than a year ago, the Fantastic Four was obtainable. Not more than a year ago, the first X-Men was obtainable. Now, you can still buy one for $30,000 at like a 2.0, but that's not obtainable for a lot of people.
Yeah, it's just like the first Doctor Doom.
Yeah.
It was, you know, at least a very, very low copy, like the one I have was very obtainable at one point, and now it's not anymore.
Right. Absolutely. Understand that. You know, it's things go up, you know, and I get that, you know, there's inflation, you know, things to look at and stuff like that. But you also have to look at the fact that it's supply and demand, you know,
right.
They have a lot of books. So let's say what you were saying earlier, let's say Image. Well, actually Boom Comics. Boom, or was it? Yeah, I think it was Boom Comics. They put out Something is Killing the Children.
You're right, Something's Killing the Children.
And they put out a first print, and it did very well, and it sold out. And
they said,
the second? Amazing. Let's do a second print. And they put out a second print, and it sold out.
And third.
And they said, that's great. So they put a third. That sold out.
Then fourth.
Sold out.
Then fifth.
Sold out.
Then sixth.
Sold out.
Special seventh.
Sold out.
And now, just recently, the eighth print is out there. And of course, you had to do certain things and jump over certain hoops to get that eighth print.
The interesting thing about that is you had to have ordered in your pull list Berserker number 2.
Oh, more than that, 1 and 2. Yeah, you had to show proof of having 1 and order 2, and in some cases you have to get 3 and 4 later on.
Depending on the shop, I guess.
Depending on the shop.
Now, at the shop that we go to a lot, or We Can Be Heroes, all they needed was proof that I had ordered number 2.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, like, that was it. I just ordered number 2, and they said, you get a copy of this. And I said, that is amazing. Thank you so much. Of course, I've been going there since they opened, and you have too, since they started out.
Yeah, you've been loyal. You know, you have a pull list, so of course, you know, you'll be among the first to be taken care of.
Right. I dropped my pull list from my old store to go to their store because Julio's a friend, you know, and Will's a friend, and I wanted to support them. Not that I had any issues with the old shop, well, besides the fact that they didn't give 20% off on their new release books, which to me, 20% is a pretty big chunk of change.
Oh, I agree.
If you're buying $30 worth of books,
it matters.
20% is $6. That's gas
matters.
money, you know.
By the way, did you at least get a free plastic and backboard?
Yes.
Okay.
And I got a free backing board and plastic, and I wasn't charged an additional 10 to 12 cents or whatever the hell it was per bag and board. That bullshit has to end.
Yeah,
any shop that does
a lot of stores doing it now. 25 cents, 35 cents.
Any shop that does that, get the fuck out. I don't want anything to do with you.
Mm. Yeah, they're really scraping for those profits at that point. You know, I mean, I understand. I mean, obviously everything costs money. You know, you got to order it and whatnot, but you got to give your pull list people a break. Here's my deal. Here's what I would do. if you have a pull list, you don't charge for the back and board, plastic and back and board. If you're just a regular person popping in every once in a while, you want to charge them, then okay, I'll let that slide.
I guess I can get that, yeah. But I think that some shops that don't charge remember what it was like to not be charged and to really appreciate that. So I think it becomes an appreciational thing. Like, again, and I'm sorry, it sounds like we're advertising for them, but we really are not. We Can Be Heroes. They do a Wednesday sale every Wednesday, and I check their pricing, and I go, wow, these guys, like, they just sold a book for $40 less than what this guy on Instagram is trying to sell it for. And I asked them, and I say, hey, why did you sell it so cheap? And they said, we want to make things affordable because we enjoy collecting, and we want to keep people collecting. We don't want to overcharge people for things. Basically, they're fans, and they want to keep people.
Other fans happy,
right? Like Will, for example, that works there. He's one of the co-owners.
One of the owners, yeah.
He really likes it when the younger kids come in and stuff, because that shows, and you and I do too. That shows, and I'm sure Julio does as well. But that shows that
there's interest in the younger generation.
There's interest in the younger generation, but that also shows that they want to build that interest in the younger generation, which is important because when they're old enough to have their own paycheck, and maybe they're still collecting at the point, they'll come in and they'll buy from them.
Plus, it's important when you see that, because in this day and age, what do most kids rather do? They rather play with their phones, play video games, maybe the Pokemon cards. So if you can find young people or young girls, young boys that want to actually read comics and potentially collect comics, or even just collect the trades at least, that's huge.
Yeah,
that's a big deal.
It's very big. I think building that community is important. And to a point, Spiro's Heroes, Elliot there at Spiro's Heroes, he was all about, the young generation coming in as well. He liked having them in the shop, and he still does like having them come into the shop. We were there when just a wee little tyke of 2 or 3 years old came in and was like, hey, Elliot. And,
he was happy. He was happy to be there.
Wanted to hang out and say hello and stuff and have a good time. And I totally get that.
It's refreshing.
It's completely refreshing, and it's completely kind and nice, and it's everything that you want to see. So the point of this entire podcast is we want to create a community where everybody feels involved, where everybody gets what they want. We don't want the overchargers to succeed. We don't want the bubble to burst. But we don't want the overchargers to succeed in making this an unsustainable market to where
start turning people off left and right.
Everybody's miserable. Like, for example, I've been trying to collect the entire run of Alf for ages.
Really?
Yeah, for a long time now. They're actually hard to find. A lot of issues are hard to find.
Probably because of low print run later on, right?
Yes, extremely low print run. And none so more than issue 48, I believe. 48 or 49, it's the famous seal of approval issue where Alf has a seal and he's trying to hold the seal down and he has his legs spread. It looks like he's having relations with the seal.
Oh, wow.
Much to the seal's dismay. That book is at least $100 to $200 in decent condition. Now, Alf comics I can still find for $1, sometimes 50 cents or a quarter, when I can find them. Otherwise, when I go on eBay, they're $10 to $20 depending on the issue. And if you try to get that issue, which I do not have, by the way, to fill my collection, that just bumps my meager collection of maybe spending $50 to $150 or $200 that I would have to spend to finish my collection. How annoying is that?
Yeah, that's crazy. So this is Alf issue 48. This is the tough one. That's you have a difficult time finding. Oh my goodness.
But, I think that we all need to take a step back and look at the market and look at who's collecting and why they're collecting. You need to ask yourself, do I have more than what I need, and how can I help my fellow collector? Now, obviously, if your fellow collector's a dick, they can kick rocks and eat a bag of shit. I don't care. But if the person's kind, if they're a good person, I'm more than willing to help them out. More than willing. And I think it's a good thing.
Well, it's part of the community. If you're a good member of the community, of course.
Yeah, and I think you guys should do the same. Anybody in the community of comic books should try to help a brother out, or sister. Just help each other. But I think we're gonna wrap it up there. Anything to add, Kevin?
No, just one thing I just thought about this. If you're looking for a possible future sustainable villain, at least in the DC universe, if they do this right the second time around, why not go and grab the first 2 appearances of Sinestro? Yeah. I don't think they would kill him off right away. He's actually, a solid villain of the DC universe.
Very solid character as far as a villain's concerned in the DC universe. It's a low print run.
I'm almost certain it's a low print run in comparison. Over the years on eBay, I see very few. So I'm glad I grabbed mine when I did back in the day. Yeah. So if you want to go and speculate a little bit on something that could be, be something down the road, and DC continues to, get their act together on the movie side.
Yep.
Grab yourself Sinestro.
Yep, and also modern Black Adam would be a
modern
good one.
Black Adam would be a good one as well.
He's anti-villain or anti-hero, I guess you could say.
Mm-hmm.
There's good aspects to him, so you want somebody much like Sinestro who has that in them. That's a good point, Kevin. You want to get the anti-heroes. I think that's important to note. Punisher from Marvel,
Deathstroke,
anti-hero. Ghost Rider from Marvel, a good anti-hero. These are all great characters that are still obtainable, reasonably obtainable, that you can get right now. So if you're smart, you'll do it.
Absolutely.
Yep. But with that, I will leave you all to think about what you've done. And appreciate you listening and tuning in. If you have questions or concerns, comments, anything like that, reach out to us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook even. We have a Facebook page for The Real Short Box. Soon to have a Clubhouse that you guys can join. It's Apple and iPhone only right now program, but it probably will come to Android at some point. You can join us on there pretty soon. Within the next probably 3-4 weeks, I'd imagine we'll be on there. And, if you see us out and about anywhere anytime soon, perhaps maybe it will be someplace that's cool, which would be where we will see you
at the sweet, precious, lovely, and most sustainable comic book shop. Collect responsibly, brothers and sisters.
This has been The Real Short Box. We'll see you at the comic shop. Thanks for listening.